Krishna, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurum-militam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatha Ekaikantam sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhamitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you for this opportunity today. So, I understand we're discussing verse 23 of the third chapter. What is the title of this chapter?
Karma Yoga.
Karma Yoga. So this is the chapter which explains how to work in a means that is helping us connect to Krishna. Yoga means to link with the Supreme. And karma refers here to activity. So activity that is linking us to the Supreme. So Krishna is speaking earlier in this chapter about the need to do yajna, sacrifice. And what is the fundamental reason we need to do sacrifice? Why must we do yajna?
Krishna says so.
Huh?
It's because Krishna.
Well, that's a very good reason, the best of reasons, because Krishna says we should, right? And that is the ultimate reason. But sometimes we need a little bit more substantiation to acknowledge why I must sacrifice. If I'm creating this wealth, why I have to sacrifice some back?
We are not owners of anything.
Because we are not owners of anything. So whatever it is that we're creating with the resources provided by Krishna. He has given us all the facilities to utilize in this world. And so if we use it independently, then it's considered to be a thief actually. That's what Krishna says. One who does not do yajna is a thief. Just like if I try to enjoy the content within Prabhuji Mataji's kitchen independently, that would not be such a nice thing to do. That would be considered thieving. So like that, within the world around us, so many facilities are given to us. And so Krishna has been guiding us that one must do yajna in order to satisfy that requirement. But Krishna says that that's the baseline requirement, meaning one should do yajna, one should do these different prescribed duties. And he said that if we want to enjoy in life, we must have some yajna, sacrifice. And in the Vedas we know there are many different prescribed yajnas that can give one so many material benedictions and boons. Which is nice, because it's better than not having that, of course. But Krishna is saying that if one goes higher and begins to do yajna for the pleasure of Krishna, then one becomes fully satiated. That's what he said in the 17th verse. Fully satiated. What does that mean, satiated? Satisfied. How many of us would like to be fully satisfied? Right? What is our experience when we are fully satisfied? Happy.
Peace.
Peace. Those two things exist when we are satisfied. We are peaceful because we're not hankering for anything. We have whatever we want. We've satisfied that want. And we're happy because there's nothing else that we are wishing we had. That is the meaning of fully satiated. So Krishna says that one who is on the process of self-realization and acting accordingly, they have become fully satisfied. Let me ask you, have you really found someone, anyone in the world, outside of somebody pursuing self-realization that's fully satisfied? Anyone?
Nobody.
Nobody? You know, when we were walking in today, there was a little anthill you might have seen on the right side of the door. And there are thousands and thousands of ants. And they're going to and fro. And you notice ants are always moving. They're always doing some activity. They're looking for
Food.
And ultimately some satisfaction. So from this tiny ant to us as humans, to the giant elephants, the birds in the sky, everyone is looking for satisfaction. But has anybody found it? Not one. Until one comes to understand, I am spirit soul connected to Krishna. And there's a very scientific reason why nobody has found it. It is not a matter of, okay, the technology must advance a little bit further, then they'll find it. You know, we haven't quite solved this mystery. But once we solve it, then one will be fully satisfied. It'll never happen. Just like a fish that is out of the water, it will never be happy. No matter what you try to do with the fish. Outside of water, it will never be happy. So similarly, the soul, disconnected from its eternal Father, Krishna, is in that same situation as the fish out of water. So we have evidence all around us. Nobody else has found it. But Krishna, right here in the 3rd chapter, says, one who is on the path of, whose human life is one of self-realization. One whose life is of self-realization is fully satiated. Not even partially satisfied, but fully satiated. And then Krishna says, for him there is no duty. For him there is no duty. This is a very important understanding. What Krishna means here is that for one who is taken to Krishna consciousness, there is no other duty required. That is the all-in-one process. It is the all-in-one formula. And that is why Krishna said fully satiated. Because if it was only giving some results, you cannot use the word fully. Meaning, if there was some other process that would give something, then you cannot use the word fully satiated. So the very profound implication here is self-realization is a complete and absolute process. It gives everything. We don't need to search for anything else. Because if that was fact, then Krishna cannot say fully satisfied. He can say mostly satisfied, highly satisfied, better than you are today, but not fully. Fully implies it contains everything. And Krishna is going to give very direct evidence at the end of the 8th chapter, where he's going to say that the benefits that are generated by yajna, by intense austerity, by giving charity, by obtaining jnanic knowledge, intense tapasya, all of that is included within bhakti. But on top of that, one more thing is, chanting is bhakti, but on top of that, one more thing is given that no other process gives, and that is attaining the Supreme. Krishna says, so bhakti includes all other processes, all the different prescribed duties within the Vedas. There are so many. For this situation, we do this austerity. For this situation, we do this yajna. For that situation, we do this. For this, all sorts of varieties. Every type of circumstance. But Krishna is saying here, just by doing Sankirtana Yajna, chanting the holy names, all of such duties are satisfied. And that is why Krishna says, for him there is no duty. Meaning there is nothing else. It is still all-encompassing. So we don't have to ask anymore, what else? What else is there? This is the complete and whole process. And that is why Krishna is going to tell us at the end of this Bhagavad Gita, now you abandon everything and just do bhakti. Because by bhakti you're including everything else already. But on top of that, one more thing. And so in the 19th verse, Krishna gives the benefit of acting in self-realization. He already said you'll be fully satisfied. That he is given. But then he says, if you work without being attached to the fruits, acting out of a matter of duty only, for by working without attachment, one attains the Supreme. How many of us want the Supreme? We all want. We want the best of the best that is available to us. We tell our children, be the best you can be. You know, the U.S. Army says, be all that you can be. Right? That's what we all want. We want the best opportunity we can get. So Krishna is telling us, one can attain the Supreme, the highest of all. And that is our relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world. There's no greater opportunity one can acquire. So that requires being detached from the fruits. Okay? So now we enter this next section that says, if I have no desire for fruits, not mangoes and papayas and apples, but meaning I am not desirous of material boons. Yeah, some more money may give me some temporary enjoyment. Some more strength may give me some temporary facilities. Some more fame may give me some temporary satisfaction. But I have some understanding, it's temporary. So when we lose those desires, then why should one do any duties then? Any act? We may ask that question. You know? There's no duty to perform. So Krishna is saying here that kings such as Janak attain perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform work. So he's telling Arjuna that you should still do your duties, but internally you are attached to Krishna. And then he continues, whatever action a great man performs, common men will follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. 22, O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three worlds, nor am I want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything, yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. Now think about that. We do some prescribed duties to get something, right? Something we don't have. If I have it, then I wouldn't do it. I go to work to get some money because I don't have the money I want. So what doesn't Krishna have?
He has everything.
He has everything. He has everything. He is the creator of everything. Yet, what does he do?
Engaging in prescribed duties.
He's engaged in prescribed duties. So why is he engaged in prescribed duties?
Just an example for
To show us.
To show us. Right? So let's read now the 23rd verse. And we'll discuss 23rd and 24th. You want us to read?
यदीह्यहं न वर्तेयं जातु कर्माण्यतन्द्रितः मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्या पार्थ सर्वशः. But if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path.
Purport?
Purport. In order to keep the balance of social tranquility for progress in spiritual life, there are traditional family usages meant for every civilized man. Although such rules and regulations are for the conditioned souls and not Lord Krishna, because he descended to establish the principles of religion, he followed the prescribed rules. Otherwise, common men would follow in his footsteps, because he is the greatest authority. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is understood that Lord Krishna was performing all the religious duties at home and out of home as required of a householder.
Yes. So, why do we need role models for us?
Due to our ego,
Due to our ego. Sometimes we find it hard to follow role models due to our ego. Why do we need role models?
So we avoid several mistakes.
We avoid several mistakes. Why so? How does following a role model help us with avoiding
We've
mistakes?
already gone through that process
Yeah.
of perfection.
They've already gone through a process, so we don't have to make the same mistakes they may have made. We can learn from this. That's one great reason we need role models. Right. Why else do we need role models?
To inspire us,
To inspire us.
because they can do it, maybe we can get inspired to also follow their footsteps.
Seeing someone else do it, we can inspire us. Give us some hope.
Confident about the result, success.
What prevents us from committing to the process of self-realization? Krishna has just said factually, by becoming a devotee, by understanding who we are, one will become fully satisfied. We all want to be fully satisfied. Nobody wants to be partially satisfied. Yet, what is holding us back from committing to the process of devotional service? Confidence. Confidence. How do I know? How do I know it will work? Right? So by seeing others, it gives us confidence. Right? Any other reasons? Why else do we need role models?
To lead people at large, not just at one individual or a small community, but at a larger scale.
To provide direction to society. Can we say it that way? To society at large? Right? Because at the end of the day, because Prabhupada writes in the first sentence, in order to keep the balance of social tranquility. Right? What is the goal of all government? I should say their at least publicly stated goal. They have many internal goals. But their stated goal is peace. Peaceful society. So that is the goal. But we have to know how. So great personalities who show the way can inspire the masses. Right? So anybody has been benefited by role models in their life? We all have. Anybody has not? Is it possible even to exist without role models? Actually, It's impossible. We cannot figure everything out on our own. Right? Otherwise, we would be stuck. How much progress we can make. So, as Mataji said, we can avoid the mistakes of others by following the path of success. We can be confident. It can inspire us to carry forward. So these are the benefits of role models. What is the one thing that holds us back from following others? Our ego. And what does our ego tell us?
Why should I follow them?
Why should I follow? Right? That is the nature of the spirit soul. Has some free will. It can choose. It is up to all of us. But when the false ego comes into play, one says, I don't want to follow. But actually following is the path of perfection. It's efficient. It assures success. It gives us confidence along the way that I'm on the right path.
It's time saving.
It's, saves time. So, but they know I want to carve my own path. Right? I want to carve my own journey. Well, if you're stuck in the middle of a forest, okay, and you are very thirsty, you are dying of quench, just on the verge of not being able to carry on any forward, and you don't know which way to go, and you're in a group of 10 people, and the first person starts walking this way saying, I know where there's water. And then the second person goes, and the third person goes, and they'll go, you're stuck at the end. Are you going to say at that point, I'll carve my own path to water? What are you going to do?
Just follow.
You're going to follow this. Because that is the path to your security, to your success. Right? But if you start to exercise, I know better. Maybe you'll find water, and maybe you won't. So, Krishna is showing the path of perfection. He's already telling what to do. He's explaining what to do. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is giving all the instructions we need to know. How to find perfection of life. But then Krishna shows it step by step. How does he show? But how does Krishna himself show step by step how to practice bhakti?
Chanting.
Chanting. And how does he show chanting? Sankirtana. When does he come to show that? As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna comes. And he says, I have spoken the process of devotional service. Manmana bhava mad bhakto majijimam namaskuru. You do these 4 things. That is pure bhakti. He says you surrender everything. But still Krishna is feeling unfulfilled. And he said, I still have not shown how to do it. And so he comes in the mood of a devotee. Krishna himself comes in the mood of a devotee to show us step by step how to find this perfection of life. So all we have to do is follow the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because that is Krishna himself showing us, holding our hand. The water is this way. Come. I'll show you. And the principal means that he showed was, what was the main activity Krishna said in order to perfect all spiritual processes? Sankirtana. Chanting the holy names of the Lord. It's so powerful. There are so many different spiritual processes. And there are also different goals for these different activities, right? As many desires as we have, that many different processes exist. If you want to have a long life, you can do this. If you want a good wife or husband, you can do this. If you want a promotion, this. So all these processes exist. Right? But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and said, by simply chanting the holy names of the Lord, one achieves the ultimate success. That which cannot be superseded by anything else. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to constantly reference this verse from the Brihad Naradiya Purana. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, kalo nashteva, nashteva, nashteva gatyarnyata. He says, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama. The chanting of the holy names, the chanting of the holy names, the chanting of the holy names. In this age of Kali, there is no other way for deliverance. There is no other way. There is no other way. 3 times emphasis. Chanting, chanting, chanting. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. And Krishna came himself, and he went village to village all throughout India, chanting the holy names of the Lord and engaging everyone, including the animals, as we see in the pastime of the Jarikant forest. They were benefited even by the chanting of the holy names. So this is why Krishna performs these activities, to set the path for all of his lost children to come back home to him. Just like a father is so anxious to lead a child out of danger, out of a difficult situation, Krishna is so eager to lead us out of whatever difficulty we may be facing. And we all have our own varieties of challenges and obstacles. But we all have one goal, and it's to overcome them. And he says, by the chanting of the holy names, chanting of the holy names, chanting of the holy names, one will ultimately become fully satiated. Not 1 or 2 of your difficulties will go away. All of them. Every single last one of them. And by following in the footsteps of our previous acharyas who have achieved that result, we can have some confidence that if it happened for them, it can happen for us. It can save us the effort of trying to figure it out ourselves. It can help us avoid the mistakes and diversions by sticking on the path. And so, Srila Prabhupada is presenting us this Bhagavad Gita, following in the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's coming direct in disciplic succession from Krishna himself, who showed the way of perfection of life. And that is the message we are getting through the speaking of Srila Prabhupada. So, just one more comment I wanted to make, and we'll have some discussion, is in the next purport, Prabhupada makes this very important point about following versus imitating. So this is a very important step. So what is the difference between following and imitating? Is it the same?
No. Following means there's one that is higher and then one that's kind of a hierarchy. Imitation is you think you are the same.
Okay, so imitation is,
You're just as good enough as whoever you're imitating.
Yeah. So you're trying to almost become that person. Whereas following has the implication of following the leader, not trying to be. That's a very nice distinction between following and imitation. What else?
Like imitating is like trying to copy their actions of that leader, whereas this one would be capturing actually the spirit of what they are trying to tell us.
Oh, very nice. That when we follow, we are following the intent of the instruction of that who is leading, not just imitating the activities. So that has a deeper meaning, right? I'm not just imitating the different actions, but I'm actually following the deep instructions that are given.
Imitations may result good or bad.
Yeah, that's it. The imitation, and we see this in various processes that people want to imitate different personalities. They want to imitate Krishna. They want to imitate these great personalities. And Srila Prabhupada writes in this purport, you want to imitate Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill?
You can't do it.
No, you cannot even lift this little book stand for 7 days. 7 days, we can't even lift for 7 hours. But I want to imitate Krishna dancing in the night. They want to imitate Lord Shiva by smoking ganja. Are they willing to hold poison in their throat? Oh, you take this poison but don't swallow it, just hold it. They're willing to do that? No. So when we say to follow, it doesn't mean I pick and choose certain actions I want to imitate. That is not. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, this verse is given.
What is the Lord Krishna is following work at home? Home and work at home and work at house. That's the way he is saying so.
I'm sorry, I'm not following.
Krishna is
Yeah.
performing all the works, duties at home and not
Out of
out of home. What is it?
I think
Where?
he is referring to the last line in this purport, Prabhu. In this 23rd purport,
Oh,
religious duties at home and out of home.
yeah. So at the home, performing different activities, and also out in public, in society. Right? We have different etiquettes, different responsibilities. So both he was performing these different activities. Right? Like we know in Krishna Lila, he went out and performed various kingly duties while he was having his Dwarka Lila. But also within the home of Nanda Baba, he would carry the shoes of his father and bring to his father. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But that is the respectful relationship that one must have between child and father, between child and mother. So he was performing these actions, though he was a Supreme Lord. Of course, in Vrindavan, his activities carry an even higher, deeper meaning than just showing duties. He is engaging in relationships with his pure devotees, but that's for a different topic. But that's what he means. But let me read this verse about imitation versus following. This comes from Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto. One should simply follow the instructions of the Lord and his empowered servants. Their instructions are all good for us, and any intelligent person will perform them as instructed. However, one should guard against trying to imitate their actions. One should not try to drink the ocean of poison in imitation of Lord Shiva. So this comes from the 10th Canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that this following means to follow the instructions. What is the guidance that these great acharyas are giving? All the way up to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by doing so, we are assured success. But again, our false ego can get in the way of our following. And one pervasive feature in bhakti, now we'll speak in the process of bhakti, is that when I am early in devotional service, following is easy. I don't know what to do. I don't know what mantra to speak. I don't know if I'm supposed to bow down here, bow down there. You go to Mangalarti, right? You go to Mangalarti, and there are so many different processes. And so I don't know, so I just follow. I offer obeisance to the first deities, then the second deities, and the third. And then the curtain closes, and we circambulate Tulsi Maharani, and then we wash the hand, and water. All these things, but if we don't know, we just follow. Right? So like that, following is very easy early on in our devotional life. But what happens once we become experienced? I know. I know how to do. As we purify the heart through the process of bhakti, this false ego, actually our mood to follow should increase. Our humility should increase. But often, as we progress in bhakti, this interest and desire and enthusiasm to follow actually lessens. Because now I know. So, we should try to fight that tendency that exists. And it's a natural tendency. So, but if we're aware of it, and we follow the footsteps of our acharyas, we'll see the more they progressed in devotional service, the more they surrendered to the prior acharyas. That is the path of success in devotional life. But we should at least become aware that it's easy to follow in the beginning. But as we progress, I know, I'm good. Don't tell me. Okay. Okay. That's how we got into trouble in the first place. But if we follow and see how are our acharyas, and if you study over and over again, you'll see this as they progress in devotional life, their mood to follow. But we must be also mindful who to follow. We can't follow blindly, right? If we're in that forest looking for water, we have to have faith in the person who is guiding. Otherwise, we may be also led astray. And so who to follow also is very, very important. We must have understanding. Ultimately, we want to follow who? Krishna. So, if I'm going to follow a set of teachings, I must understand how those teachings are connected back to the source of that knowledge, Krishna. That is what we call parampara. So knowledge that we're going to follow, we must be sure it is connected back to the source. And we have to be mindful that there's lots of information out there. No shortage. So we should be careful that we are following bona fide instruction. Bona fide knowledge. And that's why Srila Prabhupada, on page 30 of this Bhagavad Gita, he gives where this knowledge is coming from. He's not saying this is my information. He's saying it came from Krishna to Brahma, Narada, Vyas, Madhava, all the way down. It's being passed down to cyclic succession. What author of any book says this is not my knowledge, this is where it came from? But this is the Vedic way. So, Srila Prabhupada is presenting to us this knowledge in disciplic succession, which carries the pure and direct instruction of Krishna. And by following it, that result will manifest. Okay? So we'll stop there, have some discussion. Any comments or questions or clarification? Yeah.
I know you said about the disciplic succession. Now, as regards our spiritual master too, we would not be in touch with the spiritual master every time. Even after listening to the lecture, there are so many other lectures out there. They're also having their own spiritual masters, so they are also coming actually from the disciplic succession. So listening to those lectures now, that's also a sanctioned one. They're talking about Prabhupada, they're doing all the pranamata. So how authentic or how much can we be okay to listening to those?
It's not that someone has a monopoly on bhakti, right? So there are many, wonderful sources of information, and the beauty of this information technology age is at our fingertips through this we can access so much information. And it's good. It provides us variety, different styles of engaging with the audience, different topics that we may want to hear about. It's there. We should be careful it's at least within the umbrella. But there's also, which I think is the source of your question, maybe a potential to become overexposed also. And then get confused about, maybe in the detailed application of some principles, there's slightly different, opinions, different processes. So then, we take the detailed application of how to practice the devotional life from those who are guiding us in our process. And from other topics we hear, we take the generalities that are there. And we can understand, there's room for differences. Right? There's unity and diversity. We're not all the same. The essence is the same. And the beauty of Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON is that he has created a home in which the whole world can live. There are so many different spiritual masters who have different styles and approaches in engaging with their disciples, which means we all have someone we can connect with. Doesn't make one different better than the other. They're all speaking under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada's instructions. Right? So we should embrace and appreciate all. And then when it comes to the fine-tuning of maybe the direct principles of my application, then maybe I have to take some specific instruction. But it doesn't mean I have to shun that. So I take what is good, general, and when it comes to that, I can, apply from those who are guiding me. That's the way you can do both. So don't be shy in hearing from so many wonderful devotees there are. But don't get confused in the mind and turn it into a tornado also at the same time, right? Because you can overexpose. So that's the fine balance. Take the detailed instructions on the application from those who are guiding us. Take the beauty of all of Krishna's pastimes and teachings from so many knowledgeable people. That's okay?
So much out there actually.
Yeah, there's so much out there. But remember, the end goal is to chant nicely. All this knowledge we are acquiring is to bring us to the point of chanting with great love and attention. So don't overdo it. Sometimes we get so infatuated. I'm hearing this, I don't have time to chant. Then we have missed the point of hearing. Shravanam is to take us to Kirtanam. Understand? Shravanam is to take us to the point of Kirtanam. All the 64 angas of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti are meant to fulfill and inspire our effective chanting of the holy names. Because we just Harinam, 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 Eva Kelam, Kalo, Nishteva, 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 Gateta. There is no other. Right? So we hear for the purpose of inspiring us to that end. So don't let also, because I've seen and we see that there's sometimes maybe a loss of focus or priorities. Sometimes in service days too. We get so fulfilled in service that we forget our chanting. So chanting is the core, the inner core of our sadhana, and everything else builds on that. But the inner core of our sadhana that we must protect like no other. Don't let anything affect is our chanting. Yeah, some days we may not be able to read as much as others. Some days we may not be able to render direct service. Maybe our BD worship, things are up and down. But the core we never let touch is our chanting. That is the inner core of our sadhana. And if we do that, then everything else we'll see, it'll actually inspire us too. Okay? Things are a blessing and a curse. But it's mostly a blessing if we use it wisely. So much beautiful knowledge. Imagine 50 years ago, when devotees were there, they had nothing, very little they could read. They could know pictures of Krishna. We say meditate on Krishna, they couldn't even imagine just by verbal oral reception, they're hearing some descriptions. Now we have so much knowledge.
Another question.
Yeah.
It's probably just learning 101, but
No, please.
so it says he descended to establish the principles of religion. What is religion and what are the principles?
So religion, the word religion does not have a great translation in Sanskrit. So ultimately, Krishna is re-establishing the Dharma. Dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He says that I come to re-establish the principles of Dharma. So what is Dharma? Dharma, the best translation that we have, that Srila Prabhupada presents, is occupation. Which means, what is the activity of the soul? Right? Like what is, so my body, I have an occupation. You know, I'm a business person. But what will be my occupation 100 years from now? Well, maybe my body will be an engineer, maybe it'll be a laborer, whatever. But what is the eternal occupation of the soul? You know, if I had to put a resume for the soul, what would be the, job on the soul? So we have one Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana means eternal. Means it doesn't matter whether I'm young or old, white or black, male, female, tall, short, rich, poor, doesn't matter. That's eternal. And that Sanatana Dharma is eternal servant of Krishna. So that is the eternal, you can say religion, but really we understand it as the activity of the soul. It is servant of Krishna. Because we are part and parcel of Krishna. Just like my hand, its activity has only one fold. It's to serve the body. It has no independent existence. That's it. It is to serve the body. So similarly, the spirit soul being part and parcel of Krishna, it has only one Sanatana Dharma, eternal occupation. And that is to serve and love our Supreme Lord. So, to reestablish the principles of that relationship, that sambandha, is what Krishna comes to establish. And it's broken down into sambandha, avideya, and prayojana. So sambandha means I have to understand my relationship with Krishna. I am part and parcel. Then I act in that relationship. So I know it, and now I act in it. That is avideya. That means I begin to render loving service. Chanting, reading, taking Krishna prasadam, rendering practical service, singing for the Lord. These are all that. And that results in prayojana. The result. There should be some result. And that is love of God. Krishna prema. That is the ultimate result one can achieve. It's not 1,600 on the SATs. It's not $1 billion in the bank account. It's not world fame. Those are all good results. But the ultimate result one can achieve? Love of God. So, this religion ultimately means, what is my occupation? The word religion, Prabhupada comments on, is a little bit difficult because in the context of how we understand it, religion can change, my faith can change. There's a temporary nature. But Dharma is eternal. It's okay? Thank you.
Dharma of chili is hot. The dharma of sugar is sweet, doesn't change. The sugar will not become sour. And lemon is sour. That's like that. That doesn't change.
The nature of the soul never changes.
And the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Jivera Swarupa Nitya Krishna Das. Nitya Krishna Das. So that's what our sambandha is here. Relationship.
Okay? Any other comments or questions?
Prabhu, what is this rules and regulation means. What is rule? What is regulation?
So, although such rules and regulations are for the conditioned souls and Lord Krishna, right? So there are do's and don'ts. Right? The Manu Samhita gives what activities the mankind should follow, the do's and don'ts, right? But Prabhupada is saying that is for the conditioned souls. So those who are living within the material world, there is certain, etiquette and processes to follow. Again, do's and don'ts in broad sense. But for the devotee, those don't apply. It means that one is abiding to a higher principle. So it doesn't mean one ignores those other principles, but now one is abiding to a higher principle. So there are rules and regulations in bhakti. Chant attentively. Follow the 4 regulative principles, which means basically those are the don'ts. Don't do this. Don't do that. Do this. Right? So there are rules and regulations throughout the spectrum. But those are basically the way to keep us on the path. Just like on the road, right? There are those grooves on the side of the road, right? And then there's the barrier. Well, those are for to keep us on the road. Right? So as we're traversing it. Now, what the rules and regulations are, there are so many. There's so many. Right? But the most basic fundamental rules and regulations we can follow, 4 regulative principles. If we avoid meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling, and we follow the ABCDs, association, book, chanting, diet, that's it. Don't need to complicate it. That's it. Keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Bhakti is not meant to overthink. It's meant to overheart. Don't let this get in the way of this. This is what matters. Krishna is not looking for our memorization of his verses. He is not looking for us just to be a puppet, a record player for his verses. He is looking for our heart, our consciousness. So simple rules, simple regulations. They're not so extreme, actually. They're very simple, basic.
So people just to understand this. So always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So how can you explain that with the rules and regulations?
So always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. This is the fundamental essence of sadhana bhakti. Okay? And the last 2 parts of that verse say that all the rules and regulations of the scriptures, all the scriptural injunctions, should be servants to these 2 principles. Right? Sarve vede nishirgashur etayor eva kinkaraha. So there are so many rules and injunctions in the scriptures, right? But in studying each individual one, if we don't know the ultimate goal, we can get lost in them. Get lost in the weeds, if you will. So that verse helps us understand. Ultimately, it's to remember Krishna and never forget him. Why I should do this, why I should do that. Ultimately, to always remember Krishna and never forget him. Right? So every scriptural injunction should be the servant, meaning facilitating, supporting that ultimate goal. Just like in a giant corporation, right? You have the CEO, then you have the different executives and management team, and then sub-managers, and an employee. And there's so many different activities going on, right? But ultimately, any activity in the whole giant, it's to serve the goal and desire of the CEO, right? So like that, within all the Vedic injunctions in that, there are so many scriptural injunctions. But let's not lose sight of what is the essence of all of that, to never forget Krishna and always remember him. So every injunction we should ask, how is this helping me? Never forget Krishna and always remembering him. That should be our question. And that's why Krishna is going to tell us at the end, towards the end of the 15th chapter, that of all the Vedas, he is to be known. Right? So, and that's why we don't have to get so hung up on rules and regulations. There are some helpful rules and regulations, but these are not like these in karma kanda processes. In a karma kanda sacrifice, I have to do certain things in exacting formulaic approach. Meaning, if it says to chant a mantra 621 times, I have to chant it 621 times. If I chant 620 or 622, the whole thing is broken. If I have to do things, so many drops of ghee, so much this, so many grains of all this, it's exacting formula. But bhakti is not like that. Bhakti is about the heart. So yeah, we count our japa. We were talking last time. Why we count our japa? It's not to become mechanical to the counting of our japa. It's to inspire consistency in the chanting. So that ultimately, we won't need to count. But that's a long way away.
Never stop.
Right? Yeah. And that's to establish the floor, the minimum. Right? So, and that's why Krishna says that whatever we do in bhakti, 1% complete is 1% complete. And then we carry on from there. Whereas other processes have very strict rules and regulations. Bhakti is not like this. Follow common sense in your heart. You'll be okay. Inquire the basic principles. Sometimes we can be too lax to them, and sometimes we can be too worried about them. Find a good middle ground.
I have two more questions for you.
Yeah.
So one is, so what is holy name means? Because holy name are many, or it could be only one. And if Hare Krishna mantra is the holy name, that is one of the offense in 10 offenses. Don't consider the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra as
To be one of
the demigod. Okay, I forgot.
One is to consider the names to be equal to or independent of the holy names of Krishna. Right?
So maybe you can give some.
So holy names is, Krishna has unlimited names. Anantashesh is constantly chanting Krishna's pastimes, and names associated with those pastimes still doesn't finish. So he has unlimited names. He doesn't have one name, 10 names, it's unlimited. Right? So those are holy names. But the names of Krishna are Nidja Sarva Shaktis. Krishna's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains in Shikshashtakam prayer that all of the energy of Krishna is invested in his holy name. So the names of Krishna are supremely potent. So to consider the names of Krishna to be equal to other names is saying it's not providing adequate or appropriate respect. That's why it's an offense. Right? So if someone doesn't acknowledge your position in the company, then you would be offended. So the offense is considering them all, they're all names. Right? It's not that, you should respect the names of Krishna and disrespect these names. No, that's also offensive. That's also offensive. But we should understand that they are not equal, and nor are any other names independent of Krishna. Because everything is dependent on Krishna. Okay? So the ultimate holy names are the names of Krishna. And those names form into the Mahamantra. And why the Mahamantra? Well, in the Kali Shantana Upanishad, Lord Brahma is explaining to Narada Muni how this mantra was passed down. And that in this age of Kali, it is present in the material world to help one break through the coverings of Maya. It is the most potent. So the Mahamantra being the most potent is not your opinion or my opinion. That's irrelevant. It is the opinion of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So, yeah, there are thousands of mantras out there. And they all have benefit, bona fide mantras. But there is one Mahamantra. And when one chants the Mahamantra, one gets the potency of all other mantras. And that is the special significance of the Mahamantra. And that's based on Shastra. And there is unlimited Shastric evidence on that. So then it's up to us to decide what to do. Just like to go to Chicago, I can fly, I can drive, I can take a train, I can walk.
Take a boat.
Up to you to decide. But flying is going to get you there the fastest. It's okay?
And maybe if you can explain a little bit on that, don't consider this chanting as an imagination. So what is that? A little bit.
Boy, you're giving me the best question to answer. See, this exactly what I just said. That this mantra, Mahamantra, is inclusive of all of the mantras and this most potent, right? To say, that's exaggeration. So to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination means to not give appropriate recognition to the extraordinary potency of the holy names. When we say that just chant, you have to do nothing else, just chant. And you say, yeah, but what else? It means we don't have faith in that statement. So we're saying that the glories of the holy name, they're imagination, they're exaggerated. So that is an offense. So we should understand that the holy names are so powerful, so potent, that by chanting the name Krishna just once with absolute purity is sufficient to deliver one back home to Godhead. Just once. Now you may ask, well, then why are we chanting 1728 Mahamantras times 16 each day? This person's saying what? Yes, if chanted with purity and perfection. So that's how powerful the holy names are. You cannot fully describe the potency even of the holy names. They're so extraordinary. But to consider that fanciful, imagination, fantasy, whatever you want to think, that is an offense. Just like if you go to Bill Gates and say you're not very rich. So that's the fifth offense of chanting.
So, thank you.
Okay. You want to go through 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 also? Yeah, go.
It should be a separate classroom.
Every initiation in ISKCON is a class on the 10 offenses of chanting the holy names. That is the meaning of Harinama Diksha. Initiating into the holy names, the 10 offenses that should be avoided.
You said chanting with the purity. How to get the purity of heart?
How to get the purity
How
of
will
heart.
get the purity?
Yeah, and how do we know it's really pure or it's just my perception of what I know is pure right now?
Yeah, both good questions. What's the measure of that purity and how to get it? Well, there are 9 steps from Shraddha to Prema. So the 4th step is Anartha Nivritti, to become free of all the anarthas in the heart. That means purity. On the other side of freedom from anarthas is purity. Just like a garden, when I pull all the weeds out, I have a nice pure garden. So what the bhajana kriya, the practice of our sadhana, is the means to purify the heart. So we have to follow the practice of our sadhana very precisely. I'll come to your question in a second. But Srila Rupa Goswami gives very exacting details of how to purify the heart. So it's quite long in detail, but in substance, it's following our sadhana principles very attentively. Chanting has to become important to us. I can't aspire to have pure chanting, but then not put the effort in to acquire it. It's like the child who says, yes, getting an A in the class is important to me, but I'm going to go out to play soccer and not study my books. I can't say I want a good grade, but then do something else. So if I want purity of heart to chant, that is what I should chant with intensity of begging Krishna to give. Because Krishna can purify our hearts, we cannot. But is that our full desire? So if that's what you really want, you take to the process of sincere chanting, consistent chanting, and in a prayerful mood, asking Krishna, please, I cannot purify my heart, but you can. I desperately hanker for the moment to taste the sweetness of your holy name and to see you dancing on my tongue. I've heard it, but I don't see it. I'm dying to see it. Please. With that sincerity, we approach our sadhana, then it will happen very quickly. But if we're lackadaisical in our sadhana, then we'll get such results. Still some good is there. Right? So we have to develop the intense desire for that purity, to experience that taste. There's greed. We should be very greedy for it. And then it will happen. But there is no magical way for it to happen. It's just chanting. There isn't, okay, we'll do this, do that. No. Chant. But chant with sincerity. Chant with intention. Chant with purpose. Chanting will bring about good chanting. Nothing else. It's okay?
Thank you.
And how to know if we are chanting purely? Well, first things first, Krishna will know. So it's not so critical, but it's good for us to know whether I'm on the right track or not. We need like a speedometer, right? To know how I'm doing. So, but ultimately, rest assured, Krishna knows. Krishna is reciprocal. He's hearing. Every time we chant, he is hearing us. Because we are calling, Hare Krishna. We're calling out to Krishna and to Srimati Radharani. So he's hearing. So he knows. And how to know if we are chanting? Some of the measures are, in my chanting, how much was I remembering Krishna during my chanting? To the extent I am remembering Krishna and thinking of Krishna, that implies there's purity of chanting. And we all have the experience when we chant. Our mind goes everywhere but to Krishna. Right? So, but we have to start somewhere. Okay, on the first mantra of the Japamala, I'm going to think of Krishna. Okay, today. Tomorrow, on the first two. Next day, first three. We have to take steps. Okay? But the measure we can object is, what is the intensity of my shmaranam, remembering Krishna? Because Rupa Goswami explains in the 8th verse of Nectar of Instruction that the essence of everything is to remember Krishna 24 hours a day. Right? That is the essence of all advice. So we can evaluate the purity of my chanting by how much I am concentrating on Krishna. And Krishna will reciprocate in our heart. Trust me. You'll have great days of chanting where there is such a sweet experience and fulfillment and just a loveliness in the heart. And other times you'll chant, you're like, did I just chant? What just happened? You'll have that. You'll have these sort of, main thing is keep the trajectory going. But you're going to have some ups and downs. But again, if you have a desire to chant nicely, you will chant nicely. If you have a desire just to finish your rounds, you'll just finish your rounds. Whatever your desire is, Krishna is going to fulfill. So if your desire is to chant nicely, to have a pure heart, Krishna will fulfill that. If your desire is just to, finish the 16, done, gone, Krishna will fulfill that too. So set a good desire, a good intention for your japa. Don't become mechanical, ritualistic. This is not a ritual. This is an expression of our love. Right? So, be mindful of what is my intention in chanting the holy names of the Lord. Purity will come.
So, Prabhu, in what you are saying, maybe just so is Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is not mechanical, but it is a mechanical process.
Vaidhi sadhana bhakti means that the impetus to do chanting, to read, to serve Krishna, it is coming from the external influences. So from Shastra and Guru. I have faith that Guru knows what's good for me and he's telling me to chant. So I'm going to chant. I may not have full knowledge of why, but I'm going to do it because I have faith that he has my best wishes at heart. Krishna is saying to do this and that. So the impetus, the inclination to do, the catalyst to do is Guru Sadhu Shastra. That is the Vaidhi sadhana bhakti principles. As that matures, that one develops a natural, internal, spontaneous inclination. Where the desire to chant is, I want to chant my rounds. Not, I made a vow to chant my rounds. Understand? In both, one chants their japa. But what is the inspiration to chant? In Vaidhi, what is external? Because before it can come internal, something externally has to inspire us. Okay? So the process of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, one purifies and purifies to the point where the process of bhakti becomes very natural and spontaneous. But that, very importantly, is still following in the footsteps of the Ragatmika Bhaktas. So when one becomes spontaneous, one does not become independently spontaneous. Meaning I just do whatever I want. No, one still follows the footsteps of the Raja Leela devotees who have exhibited the highest love. But the desire to do so is spontaneous. Understand? Spontaneous doesn't mean I get to make up my own rules. We don't want that. Okay?
Sure.
Anything else? Chant? Yes, one question. Yes.
We can make it in short format, and I know everybody's getting it. Deity worship has at least my understanding. Basically, sometimes it can tend to be a little ritualistic, I feel. So, how to avoid that it's not ritualistic when we are doing it in the spirit? Because there's sometimes like you have to do this way and specifically. So, what happens if we not able to do that in that particular way? So, that's.
Yeah, it's a very good question. So, how to not be ritualistic in our deity worship? And we have certain rules. You do offer the incense 4 at the feet, 2 at the waist, 7 at the body, and what if I do 4, 1, 6, and these things kind of happen, right? So understand the purpose of the rituals or the precision first. why we have so many rules. You wash your hands before you do this. You chant one mantra before you pluck the tulsi leaf, and before you light the incense, and before you offer each item. There's a moon. There's so much. Why? It's to inspire us to remember we are serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're not just doing some ordinary service. That to keep us attentive that this is the Supreme Lord we are serving, so they're done in varied ways. But the rules and regulations are not meant to make us mechanical. I follow step 1, then follow step 2, then follow step 3, follow step 4. So the etiquette there is to remind us that this is not some ordinary person that we are serving. This is the Supreme Lord. So yeah, we must put on a certain type of outfit. We must decorate the body with the markings of the tilak. We must, purify by doing achman. All these things to remind us and help shape our consciousness. But it's not to make us mechanical. So in the practice of doing our deity worship, if we forget some mantra or we forget one step, the question was my intention there to please Krishna? If my intention was there to please Krishna and I made a mistake, do you think he's going to care? No. But if you follow all the rituals and every step exactly to a T, but your intention was just to finish it, do you think that's going to please Krishna? So remember, Krishna is looking for here. He's not looking for mechanical. But those rituals, the steps, are meant to remind us this is something extraordinary, to worship the deity of the Lord. So don't become buried by the rituals, by the rules and regulations. Become aware of them, and we follow them the best we can. And if you see the purpose of these rituals, there's great meaning. I had the great fortune to learn from my father in Vrindavan just how to do an offering to Krishna. It's so detailed, and you can become intimidated just by the steps. But then if you understand what each step is, you're like, wow, this is amazing. That this is not just some ordinary person honor. This is the Supreme Lord, and you're washing his feet and giving achman and then wiping the mouth with a towel and then inviting them, purifying. Just so many beautiful things. But if you just focus on the rituals and not the purpose, you get stuck. Okay, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. Right? So follow them to inspire us to know who you're serving. But remember, at the end of the day, it's about the intent. So don't be worried. Oh, I missed something. Try not to. It's okay?
There are two processes. Detailed process and simple process. They are both equally potent. Our intention is the main important thing. Why? To please Krishna. The offering of food, he doesn't need, he is not hungry for our food. But with love and devotion, what we try to cook for him because he will enjoy it. But thinking of his enjoying, you cook. That's the desire that I want to please Krishna. No doubt we're going to please your family. At the same time, the children have something to eat, right? Okay, maybe Krishna wants to that one, that we can make it for Krishna like that. So everything is tried to work for the Krishna. Gradually develops all this thing. Cleansing comes up. But if you made one mistake, there is prayer made for forgiveness. Forgiveness prayer that gets you out of mistakes. Okay, don't worry about mistake. But we try to do not to do again, but it still can happen. You get distracted. Child is crying for something, you may have to attend. Something maybe in a danger. Then you can't just go, okay, he can learn something in himself. Then you have to see that thing. Because then compassion comes into point. That Jiva is also Krishna's servant. I want to take care of him.
Anything else? Key theme is be practical and be thoughtful. Everything we do in Krishna consciousness should be thoughtful and practical. If we follow those, we'll be okay. Don't overthink it, don't underthink it. So shall we check? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.